Senator Roberts.
Thank you for appearing today. So my questions are on Treasury's plans to find foreign investors who leave vacant property they own vacant. How are you actually going to enforce that? Because even the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, said we've got no idea how many are being left vacant. You're going to send people around door knocking, just seeing if there are empty homes? Sounds like a headline grabbing to me.
Roxanne Kelly, Deputy Secretary, International and Foreign Investment. I think, as we've mentioned before, Senator, the Australian Taxation Office does have a compliance function that specifically deals with the vacancy issue. And I'm happy I've got a colleague here from the ATO who can assist with answering the question. But they have a very well-established compliance program, and they do look at the vacancy rates and do enforce that when houses are left vacant for more than 183 days per year. They do actually follow up, and they do that. And I'm sure we can give you some numbers, if you like, in terms of recent action by the ATO, but the part of the government's announcement around the increase in fees was also that there was some increased resources being given to the ATO to assist in strengthening that compliance approach.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Hector Thompson, Deputy Commissioner, International Support and Programs from the Australian Taxation Office. That's correct. So I thought maybe if I briefly explain how we enforce the existing vacancy fee rules. Obviously, these are amendments to the rates, but they don't change our enforcement approach. People who are in scope, and the population in 2022-23 was about 12,500 that we track, are required to lodge a vacancy fee return every year. Those people, some of those foreign investors declare to us that the property is vacant, in which case we would levy them the vacancy fee. We also conduct compliance activities on the remainder of the population, and those foreign investors who don't lodge a return, we deem a fee, the vacancy fee on them, and then they need to contact us if they think that we have deemed that fee incorrectly.
How accurate is your register of foreign owners?
So I know that...
Have you done any testing on it?
Sorry?
Have you done any testing on it to make sure all the foreign owners are in fact registering?
Yes. So I think as we explained in some questions on notice following the last estimates, we get the full data set, if you like, for the residential property transactions register. It's one too many real property transactions register. And that contains around, for example, in 22-23, I think the number was around 2.4 million individual entries. We work that through a range of data matching techniques to sort of get that down to a potential compliance pool in the thousands, and then, our compliance numbers we publish, and they're generally in the hundreds. So, in that sense, we're very confident about the in-scope population under the Foreign Acquisition and Takeover Act rule. I would make the point that there is some debate sometimes about the exact numbers, and I think that goes to the different definitions that different regimes use. So, for example, we're aware that, the rules of the Foreign Acquisition and Takeovers Act, they're slightly different from state and territory land tax acts. There's also a NAB survey, I think, that is run every so often, and that asks the question about overseas buyers as opposed to foreigners. So I think when people talk about the numbers, I'd say we're very confident of the numbers under the Foreign Acquisitions and Takeovers Act definitions, but that's not to say if people are using different definitions, you might not come up with different.
That's a question I'll ask later in another session. The government expects, when it made its release, the government expects to collect $500 million a year in these extra charges, $170,000 per person. If the charge is $170,000, that's less than 3,000 homes. Many of those 3,000 will probably still stay vacant because foreign buyers are rich and can probably afford to just pay the charge. Has Treasury conducted any modelling on how many of those 3,000 they expect to become occupied because of this thought bubble? Because you just mentioned 12,500 vacancies.
I think we just need to clarify that the revenue, the predicted revenue, is based on the total application fees as well as the vacancy fees.
So how many houses do you expect to be trapped in this scheme?
Well, it depends on, every year there's different numbers. So in the last financial year, there was 3,542 houses were purchased by foreign investors, so they would definitely be captured. So the people who are purchasing are captured, and the application fees have been tripled, and they range in terms of the value of the property, and the application fee increases per increase in the property value. Then you've got the numbers that Mr Thompson was talking about in terms of the number of houses that are already purchased, already registered, that the vacancy fees apply to. So the calculations around the revenue are based on those sorts of numbers as well. It's both factors.
Well, Minister, it makes it really simple, doesn't it? Why not ban all foreign ownership of housing? Because that would solve a housing crisis.
Well, I'm not sure it would when you look at the numbers involved, the evidence that's just been given, and that is not the government's position.
No, why isn't it your position? There are Australians in caravans, tents, cars. This is my last question.
Well, again, I mean, there are a number of reasons why there's pressure in the housing market at the moment, whether you be renting or homeless or seeking to buy your first home. Not all of that, and can be attributed, as I think you would like to argue, to foreign
I'm not saying
ownership.
all, but I'm saying massive immigration is driving up housing prices.
Well, that again is a separate issue to the subject of foreign ownership, and you've been
We're concerned about
today.
Australian residents and citizens in tents, caravans, cars.
So are we, which is why
bridges.
we've got all of the effort going into on the housing side to generate supply.
And we'll come to housing
Thank you, Chair.
more fully next.